Throughout the history of wrestling, there's always been one family that has actively been involved in many of the moments that we never ever can forget because they are simply outstanding, and those are the McMahons. Whether it be Austin 316 or Stephanie McMahon as the general manager, or the outstanding match that Shane McMahon had with Kurt Angle at King of the Ring 2001, this family is not responsible for just building the company that we consume on a weekly basis, but a lot of the storylines. But as we are in 2016, the involvement that they have, particularly with Vince McMahon, has changed a lot. So the topic at hand here is sort of the McMahons in 2016. In the past couple of years, have they been entertaining for us, or dare we say, best for business? So have they been best for business, guys?
Well, all those examples that you brought up, Juan, are things that happened a while ago. And I think that's very indicative of the McMahons at the moment, where they were great then. I don't know if it's just been too much of them for so long, but it feels like they're almost a detriment to the product these days, them being around. And, maybe it's time to take a break.
Yeah, I think with the McMahons here, let's keep in mind that this discussion is going to be completely about the characters on the TV show.
This is on television McMahons. They're all great people, I bet.
Yeah, so we're talking nothing about business decisions behind the scenes,
or
but strictly
rumors about who's like Golden Shovel or whatever. This is about the characters.
Yeah, the McMahons, I think, in a lot of ways, if they're not benefiting the real characters on the show, the wrestlers, the performers, then it really is a detriment. Obviously, we can look at Austin versus McMahon, and that was integral to making Stone Cold Steve Austin one of the biggest wrestlers of all time, if not the biggest. And we can even look at a thing that people complain about that takes up so much time, the Authority, hogging up the airwaves of Raw. But if we look at the Daniel Bryan storyline with the Authority, that was really like their full arc, and that's probably where it should have all ended. Daniel Bryan should have ended the Authority at WrestleMania 30 because their value lessened a lot more after that point. When they have these direct storylines that really benefit the performers, that's when they're at their best. But there's been a lot of times where they overshadow all the other performers and it becomes way more about them than anybody else.
That's kind of what I was going to say, where like Raw and SmackDown are television shows, and television shows have main characters. And there comes a point where you have to ask yourself, are the McMahons the main characters of those television shows? And if they are, because I think for a long time they were, especially Stephanie McMahon and the Authority, who does that benefit? And really it doesn't benefit anybody because they're not the active performers. They're not the main event you're trying to sell. They're the people around the main event. And I think that ends up hurting the overall product. You bring up the Daniel Bryan thing, and I think that was the one time where it worked, because you're building Daniel Bryan as your television show's main character, not the Authority being the main character itself. After the Daniel Bryan arc happened, it kind of leaned into the Authority running the shots, especially with the whole Seth Rollins thing, and that's really where the whole thing fell apart, because it became more about Stephanie McMahon and Triple H and what they were going to do, opposed to your main roster people like Seth Rollins, like John Cena. They became afterthoughts to the Authority.
And I think one of the biggest obstacles is that, okay, so you bring up, Austin McMahon. The great thing was when Austin physically stunned the owner of the company. But then with Stephanie, you don't get that. Instead, you get Stephanie slapping the hell out of everybody. It doesn't matter who, but there's no repercussion because there's no male on female violence in WWE. And the point is not that they should allow that or not, but if you're not going to allow that, don't allow that to be the story, because there's no payoff. It's like watching a movie and you turn it off because you just go, oh, well, we can't do that. Then why even bother really doing that? You have somebody like Shane McMahon come back, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, simply because of how crazy he is. We always say he's somebody that never should have stepped foot in the ring, but he did, and he was great at it. Comes in, and it's kind of like he's there, but that energy, that presence that Shane McMahon had in alliance, in the storylines he even had not like that long ago, even though it's almost been 10 years, with Vince and Shane versus the newly reformed DX with Triple H and Shawn Michaels. That fire was gone. So I don't think that the McMahons in 2016 right now, as of everything that's occurring, they don't contribute that fire that Vince McMahon had, that Shane and Stephanie had in the alliance and things like that.
Shane McMahon is a whole other can of worms when it comes to problems with the McMahons these days, because the concept of Shane McMahon coming back on its own is awesome. But ever since Shane McMahon came back, it just feels like it's been misstep after misstep storyline-wise. Like, you had that whole thing with The Undertaker, where if he wins at WrestleMania, he's going to run Raw, and then he lost, and then he runs Raw anyway, and now he's fighting with his sister for control of each show, and then the winner is going to get the keys to the kingdom, but they're still kind of working together. When Brock Lesnar assaults Shane McMahon, Stephanie gets angry, you know what I mean? Like, it's always been this weird, like, misstep where they haven't really committed to what's 100% of what, like, the McMahons are supposed to be on television. It's been very wishy-washy the whole time, and I think that's been Shane McMahon's current downfall. Because Shane on his own is awesome, and it's cool to see Shane McMahon back, but just misstep after misstep.
Yeah, with Shane, I think he's probably always benefited wrestlers the most when it comes to storylines,
because he can step in the ring with them, and that's the big difference.
It helps. And I mean, Vince steps in the ring with people too, and with Shane going in the ring with The Undertaker at WrestleMania, I think is a great idea, and it had very great moments. And I have no doubt that if Shane steps into the ring with somebody else, that they could have a really good match. It was really kind of the storyline decision-making behind The Undertaker and Shane where everything just kind of went awry. And, you know, right now, SmackDown, it seems like they're doing a good job of not having the focus too much on them, although, you know, things with Lesnar and all that come into play. Stephanie, though, you see what happens when Stephanie gets in the ring with someone. Most recently, we can look at the whole Brie Bella thing, and what happened from that? You know, you thought this was maybe, hey, this is them putting a stamp on Brie Bella. She'll be able to beat Stephanie McMahon and be a focal point of the women's division or something like that. But instead, we get the Nikki Bella, Brie Bella storyline, and it all goes to hell.
Ooh.
Should have died in the womb. Should have died in the womb.
And that's always a challenging thing, because as we've all brought up, the McMahons should never be the focal point, because at the end of the day, they're not the ones wrestling at the house shows. They're not there wrestling at the TVs or pay-per-views. They're sort of there because they have that presence. People know that they actually do have a say in the decision-making process behind the scenes, but as we get to the topic that is still the characters, you get to somebody like Vince McMahon, which back in the day was like, okay, awesome Austin McMahon, but nowadays, Vince McMahon comes in, and where does he fit into this picture where we do have a brand split, which the whole purpose was to really delegate the protagonists from the McMahons to not even the GMs, but the talent, which has been our complaint with Raw with the Authority for years. Where do you put Vince McMahon in that picture?
I think the place where Vince McMahon is right now is the best place for him. Like, in the beginning of the year when he was around for the whole Roman Reigns thing, that had its problems, its own set of problems. But you have Vince McMahon show up every, 6 months, 8 months, a year in between even. It becomes a big moment. Like, oh shit, Vince McMahon's here. Something's about to go down. And that's really the best place for him, because he's really ascended beyond, he needs to put these characters over. He's just Vince McMahon, and that's all he needs to be. Have him show up every once in a while, create a moment. If it builds somebody, great.
Yeah, he's essentially the overseer of Raw and SmackDown, and obviously he's wanting to see Raw and SmackDown be pitted against each other with Shane and Stephanie. So I like that he just makes minimal appearances only when he really needs to. And I think that's just the best way to do it. Because he can't do the matches anymore. I'm pretty sure he hasn't had a match since he fought CM Punk way back,
that was a while
2 or 3 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. You see Shane or Stephanie, you hear their theme song. What is your initial reaction? Is it, yay, they're coming out? Like, how do you feel about that when the time comes?
Stephanie's
Honestly,
theme is a bad theme to hear, because we're in for a long-winded promo that could go nowhere.
And usually does go absolutely nowhere. But yeah, pretty much same thing. I almost feel like oh god, here we go again whenever I hear Stephanie McMahon's theme. Shane, less so, but still at the same time, kind of the same.
Isn't it crazy how the initial topic is, are the McMahons best for business? When you talk about Vince, historically, he's had that presence. Even if it doesn't always work out, maybe he tears like his whole body trying to get into the ring after a Rumble match, but it's still something outstanding.
Still a moment. Vince McMahon created a moment.
Yeah, even then, the topic is, holy crap, how is he even still there? But with Shane and Stephanie, as time goes by, they're not able to maintain that presence, and it just sort of becomes like, here we go. Can we just get to the action? Can we just get to the storyline that you're trying to point out, and you're like doing this 12 to sometimes maybe even 20-minute segment? And although it has been greatly reduced thanks to the brand split, it's been sort of like integrated. It's been cemented into our brains whenever they come out. Oh man, are they going to go back to the ways of the Authority? That's a possibility. So if the primary question once again is, are the McMahons best for business? My personal answer has got to be, in 2016, a solid no. Because you get so many concerns, and it's not about antagonists. Like, for every good guy, you need a bad guy. Is that I don't care. When Stephanie goes out there, I'm just going to watch the replay where they actually just cut to the point of the segment rather than having to sit there for 12 minutes and hear Stephanie go like her whole like Monday Night Raw in this really cringy way that she does with Mick Foley and things like that. Any closing comments about this subject?
Yep, I agree with you that the McMahons are not best for business at this point in time. I think that Shane and Stephanie should really just take that role. Like, they should basically replace Vince. It should feel like a moment when Stephanie McMahon or Shane McMahon show up on television, because it's their show. They should be the big shot. Have the GMs do the grunt work. Have them be the weekly people. And then when something really goes down, have Stephanie McMahon show up and then just lay down the law. They should really take that Vince McMahon role. It's just a very less is more situation with the McMahons, because right now we just have way too much of them.
WrestleMania 30, Daniel Bryan takes down the Authority. WrestleMania 31, Roman Reigns gets cheated out of a title match because Seth Rollins with the Authority cashes in. WrestleMania 32, Roman Reigns versus Triple H against the Authority. So I think we need a break from the Authority and these types of this guy, the top babyface versus the establishment. The McMahons in 2016 need to take a huge step back, and we need wrestler versus wrestler, superstar versus superstars. That's where all the focus needs to be. Yes, you can have the McMahons on the show, but just leave them as the GM. You know, like William Regal is the NXT GM. How much does he honestly interfere with the show? That's the type of role I think we need.
Excellent example. When you see William Regal show up on NXT, you know something is either about to be confirmed or something needs to be changed, or he's simply there to be a presence, where Shane and Stephanie, even though they have their own respective GMs, they're still there pretty much every week. So why not just have them do that and just get it out of the way? Because you technically have more layers upon layers of things that maybe you don't like. So those watching, do you think the Authority, or in this case, the McMahons, are best for business? Or how come you think they're maybe not that great at that? Definitely drop a comment. If you do like this video, give us a thumbs up and suggest away any future topics, top fives, bottom fives, or let's plays related to the world of wrestling that we should do. If you like what we do, but we don't pour it out soon enough for you, you actually want to get Keith's face every Monday or something like that, you can do something that is Bootios driven, because you can be chowing down on some Bootios while you head on over to patreon.com/Byte That. You pledge and you get behind the scenes updates, you get early access in some tiers, you can get a personalized video. You get a shout out on the podcast and social media. You can get yourself a Byte That t-shirt. I'm not wearing one, but imagine that I was. All of that information is in the description box below. So until next time, thank you for watching. Enjoy some of the videos across your screen right now, including Ryan eating some of them bootios. And we'll be back with a lot more on BT.
McMahon.
I want to watch that. I'm hoping it's as good as the first one. I'm hoping they don't sort of overdo it.
That's what I'm thinking.
We'll find out this week.
Too much of a good thing turns into a bad thing.
Sex,
and
Keith.
Too much love will kill you if you can't make up your mind.
But you're alive, Keith, so.
Torn between the lover and the love you've left behind. And the pain will make you crazy. You're a victim of
Juan,
the
can you edit this one so this can go at the end?
I mean, this is all being recorded right now.
Yeah.